Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com with another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements the week ending December 5th, 2016. This is episode number 72 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week comes from Square Enix regarding Final Fantasy XIV. And the news is that the game is hosting a free login event that's going to be open to anyone who has ever subscribed to the game in the past. From now until January 4th, 2017, players get 4 full days of access to the game from the day they first log in. It's unrestricted access too, which is nice. If you never bought the game, however, you can still check out the regular free trial, but this is a nice way for anyone who has played the game in the past to just check back in and see what's going on. The next expansion, Stormblood, is set to launch sometime in the summer, so even if you don't come back now, there's plenty of time. I personally really like these promotions from subscription-based games because it lets you come back without, having to pay for the entire month in advance, so it's nice. Next up, also on the buy-to-play front, Elder Scrolls Online is on sale for $20, down from the regular old price of $30. So if you never did try Elder Scrolls Online, now may be a good time to do so. The game has changed a lot since its original release. In fact, it was a subscription-based game when it first came out, and now it's a pay once and play forever game. And of course, beyond changes to the business model, the game itself has changed an incredible amount since release. So yeah, $20 if you want to play Elder Scrolls. Up next, some pretty big news from Snail Games regarding Age of Wushu. They're remaking the game entirely through a new engine sometime in the second half of 2017. A first beta test for Age of Wushu 2 is scheduled to release in early 2017, which left a lot of people wondering what would happen to the original Age of Wushu. And it looks like it's still going to be around, but with a brand new engine. No word on what the engine will be, but given the Age of Wushu 2 and Dark and Light are made on Unreal 4, I suspect this one may end up being on Unreal 4 as well. The remake will feature improved graphics, content, gameplay mechanics, physics engines, and more. Given that Age of Wushu is one of the few real sandbox MMORPGs out there, it's good to see Snail Games giving it some love. None of this has been announced on the official website for Age of Wushu, however, it was covered by Chinese media on 17173.com, a huge gaming site in China, so curious to see when they'll announce it in the West. Up next, the Dark Knight class in Black Desert Online is officially live in South Korea. It was first announced way back in April, and it's finally here. And by here, of course, I mean in South Korea. Still some ways to go before it launches in the West. However, it's also worth mentioning that Black Desert Online is moving to South Korea through Red Fox Games. The company that's usually known for relaunching a bunch of old dead games from Games Campus got the exclusive license for Black Desert Online in South America. So now we'll have a Russian server, a Korean, a Japanese, a European, and Western one. So there are more options now in the world. However, and the whole mega server thing also happened, so a lot of stuff happening in the background for Black Desert Online. And in order to celebrate the launch of those mega servers, there's actually some in-game events going on. Most notably, players over level 30 get 200% bonus experience if they've been inactive in the game, as a way for them to come back. It's called the catch-up event, and thus the name makes a lot of sense. And moving right along, a bit of news for Revelation Online. And while we still have no word about when the second round of closed beta testing will begin, they did reveal some information about world bosses and achievements in Revelation Online. Apparently there will be 6 world bosses when the game relaunches for its second round of closed beta testing. And those respawn times on the world bosses will vary from an hour all the way up to a whole lot longer, in quotes. So no word on exactly how long, but if it's anything like old school EverQuest, that would be insane because you had world bosses and world rare spawns that spawn like once a week or something crazy. But I'm sure it'll be much more tame than that, or they'll have a whole bunch with varying degrees of respawn times. And while there's no exact word on when closed beta 2 will begin, I did get confirmation from my.com that we will be getting closed beta keys here at MMOs.com, so pay attention to our website, and as soon as we get closed beta keys, they will be available to everyone. I suspect closed beta 2 will begin later this month, definitely sometime in December, but again, we'll see. Next up, a bit of news from Blade & Soul from NCSoft. The game's latest update, Runes of Kadar, is set to launch on December 7th, which will expand the game's storyline, add some new legendary accessories, and most importantly, a brand new dungeon. The new dungeon is probably the biggest aspect of the update, and it's called the Naryu Foundry. And even though it took NCSoft forever to get Blade & Soul off the ground, it's good to see them finally releasing regular updates. They even got the PvP spectator client going finally in the West too, so things are starting to come together for Blade & Soul, and if you've played it, this might be a good time to check it out again. I personally had a lot of fun with Blade & Soul, so I'll probably check this update out, and if not this update, probably the next big one. Moving right along, a bit of news for Lineage Eternal. Now that the game began its closed beta testing, we know how the game's multiple hero system works. We speculated in the past that it could be a bit like Granada Espada system where you get to play all the characters at once, but however, that is not the case. Instead, while you're outside dungeons, you can switch between your heroes at will. So you have a party of 4 characters, and they don't really follow you, you just kind of switch between them as you want. They each have to be leveled and geared separately. When you're in a dungeon, however, those rules can vary. And the rules are a bit different in dungeons because in certain dungeons you can have all those characters with you as AI-controlled teammates, while other dungeons only allow you to play one character at once. So it's interesting, and until we get our hands on it, we won't know for sure. No word on exactly how PvP will work just yet, though. Thanks to Stepara for the video we use in the background. You are awesome. Moving right along, the next major expansion to Star Wars The Old Republic is officially live. Knights of the Eternal Throne is live for all subscribers, and given that the game is a BioWare title, it's heavy on story, so if you're still following the game, definitely check it out. Awesome story content. And it's worth mentioning that new players that jump into the storyline can actually get a free boost to level 65. The whole boost thing is something we've seen in a lot of MMORPGs now. Companies have decided to boost players to get them to the most recent content as soon as possible, so it's a trend in a lot of games now. Moving right along, Riot Games is to sell LCS streaming rights to MLB for $200 million. So yes, Riot Games is selling the exclusive right to stream the LCS to the MLB, Major League Baseball, and they're paying $200 million for those rights for a 2-year period. So that's $100 million a year Riot Games is making off the game's streaming rights. It's pretty huge because for esports, you have a major league like the MLB paying this kind of money to stream League of Legends. It just shows you how big esports is getting. Now, this is not official just yet. It's all based on an article on the LA Times with sources close to the matter. But again, it just shows how incredibly large esports are getting. Man, $200 million bucks. That is insane. Up next, and probably the most surprising bit of news this week, at least personally, Webzen is opening a new European English Flyff server on December 6th. So that's tomorrow. We're getting a brand new Flyff server. Who would have guessed an old game like Fly for Fun would be getting a brand new server? This one, I guess, will be dedicated to European players. I guess the player base was big enough in Europe to warrant their own server. I mean, I say it's surprising, don't get me wrong, because I think Fly is a bad game. I think it's a fun game, but it's a really old game. So to see an old game like Fly for Fun just get a brand new server in like 2016 is definitely quite interesting. And moving right along, the next big expansion to Riders of Icarus is set to launch on December 15th, and it's the game's Rangers Fury update. It's going to be big because they'll be increasing the game's level cap up to 50, as well as introducing a whole new Desert Valley zone to the game called Cloying Wastes. And of course, to celebrate the launch of the update, there'll be some in-game events and other goodies. Namely, players at level 15 or higher will get a free Rangers Fury launch pack, which I think is pretty smart because it encourages people to play the game before the expansion actually launches, just so they can get that pack. So it's a nice way to encourage players to check out the content as well. Assuming, of course, there's actually good stuff in the pack. That's a big if. Next up, another bit of surprising news, probably even more surprising than Fly for Fun getting a new server. Decade-old MMO Dark Eden launches on Steam. This is an oldie, and it actually existed in the West for a while. Then it shut down, and for some period it was not available, and then it got picked up by Game & Game, and now I guess it's launching on Steam. It launched back in 1997, making it one of the oldest MMORPGs out there. The same year the Ultima Online came out, Dark Eden also came out. It relaunched back through Game & Game in June, and now it's found a home on Steam. And for those curious, it's getting about 75 to 125 players online at any given time, so it's not bad. Next up, a small bit of news for Elsword Online. A very small bit of news, actually. KOG Games has been teasing the game's latest character, Ein, for both Korean and North American servers. No one exactly when the character itself will launch. All we know is that he's a magic user of some sort, with magic circles beneath him. On the Korean teaser page, it actually does say he'll be launching, or at least he'll be arriving on December 7th, but that's again for the Korean version, not the Western one, so we gotta wait a bit longer here in the West. Next up, Nexon's upcoming mobile MMORPG with Dinosaurs Durango is set to begin limited beta on December 13th, and signups are open now. So yes, the game is launching in the West probably relatively soon. If they're doing a limited beta run over here, it means they are making progress. So yeah, here's a mobile game that we're covering that's actually launching soon. Usually we talk about mobile games in Asia. This one will be launching globally, hopefully pretty soon. And speaking of games that are actually launching soon, Gigantic enters open beta on Windows 10 and Xbox One together on December 8th. So yes, it's a long time coming. This game's been in development for years. At first it was a Microsoft Windows 10 exclusive, and then Perfect World took over, but it's finally happening. December 8th is the day. Check it out. We did do a Sunny Fun Day video for the game, and it was pretty fun. It's a little bit different, but I think it's going to have a tough time competing with established MOBAs. Next up, a bit of news for Life is Feudal. The sandbox MMORPG will be launching the beta test on December 14th. There's a closed beta testing, rather. If you haven't heard of Life is Feudal, it's basically the MMO version of Life is Feudal Your Own. The Your Own version of the game is a buy-to-play title already on Steam, and it relies on player-hosted servers, whereas this one will have region servers hosted by the game company itself, persistent single servers. So that's actually a really cool concept. Basically, an MMO version of Rust or any of these sandbox-style games. Unfortunately, the only way to get a closed beta key is to either pay and pre-order the game or enter on the official website for a small chance to get in. The concept is really cool, so I'm curious to see how it's gonna do. I don't think anyone's tried a truly massive sandbox version of Rust or any of these style games, so we'll see how it does. Moving right along, the War Eternal update for Skyforge officially launched this last week as well, and including with it is Pantheon War Season 2, some tweaks to Squad Adventures, and start of Reapers of Death Invasion. So there'll be regular invasions happening, which drops some nice loot. Ever since Skyforge first launched back in early 2015, they've been pretty good with updates. The only problem is they changed a lot of things after the fact, and players built their characters a certain way, and that got changed all of a sudden, so it did piss off a lot of players. So the player base has declined a bit. Curious to see if it's improved a bit or not, but they're still releasing updates, which is nice. Up next, the Exiled's final alpha test officially went live this last week. And for those that haven't heard, the Exiled is, according to their own words, the world's first open world survival arena where they bring together MOBA tactics and sandbox MMO strategy. Their goal is to make MMOs fun again for PvP fans with no more grind, no more pay to win, and no more tab targeting. And it looks kind of interesting, and expect a first look video for this one relatively soon. And yes, it is actually a full loot MMORPG, one of the few full loot games out there. The next and last bit of news this week comes from Lawbreakers, and they finally broke their radio silence and they showed off a new trailer as well as a new map, and the game's beta will start sometime in 2017. So the game is definitely making progress, which is good because we haven't heard too much about Lawbreakers in quite a while. Anyway guys, that's it for MMO news this week. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys. And I'm not gonna lie, this trailer does make the game look way cooler than it usually is. I feel like FPS trailers always make the game look awesome. But yeah, later guys.